So last but not least, I would like to introduce Judith Delany. So I hope I pronounce your surname
Smooth.
with the sound it
Very
deserves.
good, Trust. Very good. Thank you so much.
Over to you in Vienna. So what is your story you would like to share?
Well, first of all, thank you so much for the introduction. And I'm quite happy now that I'm going last, because from just the discussion we had with what Chiara said, what Remco said, and what Artemis said, that actually pretty much goes into what I'm about to say. Before I get to that, though, I'm just quickly introducing myself. As Torsten already said, I'm Judith Delany. I'm CEO and co-founder of Perihelion, the creative agency for the space sector. So we are a creative agency that does visual communication, animation, branding, digital marketing, specifically for the space sector. And we started 3 years ago, and I'm a space sector late bloomer because of exactly the issue that has just been mentioned. I didn't realize there was a space for me in space. I have been doing journalism, media communications, and content creation for 10 years for the fashion industry, not knowing that it was actually something I could do for space, which was something I was passionate about ever since I've been little. But just like Chiara, very bad at maths. You do not want me next to numbers. And this is why I'm so passionate about what I'm doing now, because I European, I was born and raised in Germany, had access to the best education and information and outreach possibilities, and yet that message that I could be in space didn't reach me. So yeah, that's why I do what I do, and I'm glad to be able to do it also as part of Powering Space, together with Torsten, Remco, and Ryan, who's in the room, and Charlie, who's not in the room. And also, again, really want to impress on you to support and follow and join Powering Space. So quickly, why I'm talking about the topic that I'm talking about today. I'm talking about something that has been dominating the media and the narrative of space for a few weeks now, which is obviously our billionaires in space. A few weeks ago, I got really annoyed because someone once more asked me, so what do you do with space? Isn't that just for billionaires? And I got really angry, and I let out a tweet thread about space not being communicated properly, which hit a narrative, or hit a nerve, not a narrative, hit a nerve, because it's been retweeted nearly 550 times and got 1,700 likes, and got me talking to amazing people that have reached out afterwards, which is great. So this is why I've decided to continue to touch on that topic. Now I have to see that I can share my screen, of the billionaires in space, and why the communication is actually, in my opinion, more of a fuck up than fabulous. So first of all, we have to look at what makes space communication and communication successful in general when we look at the normal parameters. And it's obviously reaching the audience you intend to reach, which means you have to use the right language for your audience. It doesn't help you to be super academic and scientific if you want to reach the everyday layman, because you will not reach them, you will lose them, because they feel like there might be a certain arrogance coming from you above that topic, so that doesn't include them. That means obviously also using the right media for your audience. It's great if you're amazing with TikTok, but you won't reach the 50-year-old farmer needing an app for his potatoes, as Artemis, for example, said. On the same hand, you probably, if you print something in a newspaper, won't necessarily reach the 14-year-old who wants to go into space. So really picking your right media is just absolutely important. Then obviously get good media coverage if you can, if you're being talked about, if you're being reported about, may it be by official news outlets, may it be by blogs, may it be by podcasts, that's fantastic, that's amazing, because that helps you to generate the excitement that your audience needs for your topic, to engage with you, to maybe, get the incentive to learn more about what's actually going on, what you're talking about, and immerse themselves in the subject. And well, if you're lucky, you might go viral. So when you look at these parameters, Virgin Galactic and Blue Origin did great. They did great. They did it right. I mean, they were talked about in the media everywhere. It's like the only thing that's being communicated about space, basically, is them. They had the money, they had the media coverage, they had the marketing, and it was marketing, in my opinion. It wasn't space travel, it was marketing. But still, it was really damaging. It was damaging to the space industry, and it was really, really damaging to space communication as a whole, to the entire sector. And that just annoys me, to be very honest, very annoys me. But the question is, okay, clear slide, what went wrong? Let's look at Virgin Galactic first. The entire thing was very staged. If you looked at the live stream, it was very much to look like a Hollywood movie. It was, you know, the sound, the music they'd show us was very patriotic, and we can do it, we are the heroes, ba 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 ba. It was big show, but it was actually just very little substance. When I say it was too egocentric, then I would like you to look at the picture of all the astronauts, and please tell me, besides Richard Branson, who we can still name just a few weeks later, it was never about a team of civilians or whatnot, of everyone going into space. It was about Richard Branson. And you could see that also at this, which I included here, this very, very staged quote that like it sounded like he was reading it from a teleprompter while he was strapped in, like going like, I was once a child. And it was just, it just didn't seem sincere. It didn't seem from the heart. It just seemed like a publicity stunt. And one thing I actually would like to point out, considering that Richard Branson and the whole Virgin Galactic team seemed to want to reach the whole of America, everyone can go to space. I actually think it was very smart, on the one hand, to pick Stephen Colbert as like the host, because this is someone you see on TV. This is someone, you know, he's familiar to you. He brings space closer because it's a face that isn't from space. So that was actually a smart move. The issue was still that then the entire thing just looked like a show. It was the Stephen Colbert and Richard Branson going to space show. It was never about what is actually achieved. And again, I'm not criticizing any of the technology and whatnot they're doing for this, or that they are developing. I'm criticizing that this just backfired. It just backfired in the communication, because it was just like, rich white man going to space, yay, and forgetting everything around him. And this is why I wrote lacking the human element, because we remember in 2014, a test pilot died trying to make this dream happen. And in the entire broadcast, this wasn't mentioned, and not any one of this team was mentioned. Nothing was mentioned. It was just about, we can go to space, which is a whole different thing, because, sorry, but you did not go to space, Richard, but that's an entire different thing. So that, to me, I at some stage actually just turned off the stream, because it was just, I just got very angry. It wasn't good at all. When you get to Blue Origin, they did a bit more right, I'd say, because in the end, when you looked at Twitter as well, it was didn't at all, the narrative wasn't Jeff Bezos going to space, it was Wally living her dream. So there was a human aspect, basically, that people really resonated with. But when you then hit tuned into the press conference afterwards, it was the biggest cringeworthy moment ever, because someone who is not paying taxes, who is exploiting his workers, who has been criticized for the way he does business, then actually said that he wants to thank his workers and the Amazon buyers for sending him to space. I'm just like, read the room, Jeffrey. Like, are you serious? Did no one actually brief you for your own press conference? Because that just exploded. Now, this is from the Independent, this screenshot, but all over the news, it was just the accomplishment of what Blue Origin did completely went into the background, and it was instead the cynical response of Jeff Bezos after he went to space, after he'd done his space flight, and that just completely backfired. Oops, sorry. So the result of all of this is that we actually, instead of getting excitement for the space sector, have a really bad public opinion because of that billionaire's space race or stunts. The impression now is that space is just for white old billionaires, and not that everyone can go to space, because let's be honest, Richard Branson and Jeff Bezos all come from an already rich background. They're not self-made millionaires because they've already had every opportunity and privilege in life. And as well as the fact that they are white and old and male, just really, again, makes this a really exclusive scenario they've presented. You had barely any like people of color or women or whatnot actually really represented in that entire communication. And it was just the typical thing, space Space is if you're rich, if you're white, if you're male. And that was something the industry is struggling with anyway. Then actually the same thing we've discussed earlier, the consensus was then, well, why would we do this anyway? Why would we try to go to space when we have so many problems on Earth? And why do these billionaires need to spend millions of dollars to go to space, billions of dollars probably, instead of actually using that money to solve the hunger crisis or whatnot, or climate change or whatnot? And that's the issue, because that again, you know, stops the narrative from being space is being used every day to make our life on Earth better. And because we quickly asked earlier, like, what do you normally say to get people interested in space, that it affects them? I like to lift up my phone and just say, well, first of all, this is space technology. Thank you very much. And second of all, this in your hand that you use daily is a better computer than the computers they had to send a man to the moon. Now, imagine how amazing it is what they achieved, and what amazing it is what we can achieve now if a computer that is better than the Apollo computers can fit in that size. And the fact is, as we know, that we use space made, for example, with the Copernicus program to really combat climate change, to combat hunger, to combat sickness, to help achieve CO2 neutrality. This is what we're using space for, but this is not the narrative. The narrative is now, thanks to this, billionaires are wasting their money to go to space, that this creates jobs, an economy, and this is good for a country that just completely, yeah, is beside the point now, because it's not being communicated. And instead, what's being communicated is we're spending millions and millions and millions to destroy the climate. And this is just so counterproductive and so damaging for the space sector. And the other thing, this is something that we hear in Europe a lot, so I'm obviously very Eurocentric in my information and what I inform myself about, because most of my clients as well are based in Europe, is why am I paying taxes to ESA, for example, for all of this nonsense when all we do is just, you know, fulfill rich guys' dreams? Because a lot of people don't even realize that what they are paying in taxes is actually less than a cinema ticket a year. And what they're getting back is their everyday life being so much more better. May it be GPS, may it be an app that helps them to find a parking spot, may it be an example that I used in that tweet thread a few weeks back, the climate ticket Austria, which means you pay like 900 euros the entire year, and you can use all public transportation in all cities and all trains, private and public, which is being made possible by satellite data that looks at all the train connections and whatnot. Just small examples, obviously a lot more, and that will, you know, actively reduce the CO2 output. This is what your tax money is actually paying for, but this is again not being communicated. And again, people will think they won't be able to work in space because they don't have that rich background. They're not good in math. They can't just, you know, spend millions and millions to fulfill childhood dreams if they are not coming from where Branson and Bezos are coming from. And that's just, oh, it's just so frustrating, because there's so many people all around the world from all backgrounds, sometimes maybe from very humble beginnings, that would just enrich the community so much, but they're not being represented. And then the next thing that really annoys me is the misinformation about facts. And this is, where does space start? No, we do not know where space starts. The UN has been discussing this in a working group for over 50 years. Where does space start? And now with the suborbital flights, they're doing a new working group on suborbital flights to make sure there's a legal system in place. And then what happened was that in both those broadcasts, it was like, they are going to space internationally. We all know space starts at 80 kilometers. No, it does not. Report the facts. Their achievement isn't less incredible because they did some amazing technology and achievement there. If you say they made it 80 kilometers high, they made it over the Carmeland, but do not say they made it to space because we know space starts at 80 kilometers, because then it now falls back again to us communicators to re-educate and to represent the facts, when in fact sometimes that's just a lot more difficult than, you know, put out the right information from the beginning. Yeah, so you can see I'm getting really passionate about this because it just made me really angry, because in my opinion, achievement or not, this was just so damaging. And ever since then, whenever I talk to people that are not in the space sector about what I'm doing, I'm literally getting like, do you think it's good that they went to space? And instead of actually being able to talk about, listen, for example, in Austria, we have an amazing company that again works with the Netherlands that helps to Geoville is the name, that helps with monitoring potato crops, or that we can, stop an Ebola outbreak because we look at satellite data. I don't even have time to communicate this anymore, because instead of being able to be active in my communication, I'm just reactive to people now that are just super angry that money is being wasted when we're struggling with climate change. And that's just, well, to sum it up, basically, I think the biggest thing when you do communication or marketing like this, it's not just, don't just look at the typical parameters of numbers, who do I reach, do I go viral, whatnot, but look at the impact you're doing as well, like that your entire thing has. Because sometimes you can be super successful in the classical parameters, but really damaging and, well, yeah, fucking it up for an entire industry in another way. So this is, to sum it up, before I get into bigger rage, this is it.
All good. Thank you very, very much. And of course, you deserved it. Thank you again. I mean, as my last question about how we get paid as communicators are gently moved over, I ask you, not this question, another one. What is the role of inspiration with all these billionaires game going to space and pretending that they have the normal people on board, which are approachable or not? And I don't use deliberately inspiration as of inspiration for, but choose it in your answer if you like.
Well, yes. So inspiration, I think, again, this would be a bit difficult to answer, because you could argue what is inspiration, and you do know that I have a bit of a space law background as well, so I can really dissect a word for hours if I want to. But when it comes to, is inspiration getting excited for a topic, then I'd say Blue Origin more so than Virgin Galactic, because Virgin Galactic just really was, pardon my French, a shit show. It just really didn't go well. Then it was inspirational, because in that case, they did really well in putting Valley Funk on that flight. And that was inspirational, because that was something relatable. Someone waiting her whole life to fulfill her dreams. That was inspirational. Having a person coming out of that capsule shrieking in joy, not trying to be cool or clever or whatnot, but having a genuine human reaction and getting goosebumps seeing this woman just being so happy. That is inspirational. So that was great. But again, will it inspire me to look for a career in the space sector? Not necessarily, because the message that was, again, not overtly, but, kind of communicated was, you can work really hard, but sometimes you need to wait 60 years until a man pays for you to fly to space. It was not, you know what I mean? It wasn't necessarily, this was just, Jeff Bezos, big spender, giving her the chance instead of you can achieve it because you work hard. So again, it's difficult to answer this in one thing. Was it inspirational in one way? Yes. Was it inspirational as in amazing? I'm a small kid, I don't know, from rural Austria. Like, I don't know, Josef Aschbacher was a small kid from rural Austria and is now, head of ESA. Or am I a small girl, I don't know, from Latin America that's just working really hard? No, it wasn't inspirational in this sense. Was it inspirational to see human emotion? Yes, it was.
I was about to give the last word for to Artemis, but she left us already. So, however, but thank you very much. It seems you're living for quite long in Austria already, and
years now.
Come on, but you adapted a lot of the grumpy behaviors Austrians.
Yes,
potentially, yes. So,
yes.
However, Remco, you want to make a point, if I'm not mistaken.
No, I'm going to leave it with what Judith says, and just saying I completely agree. And even the example of inspiration for, although you didn't want to mention it, Torsten, I do, because to me that fits in the same category. Really, it's three, yes, ordinary inspirational people like Wally Funk joining a very rich person in a mission that was highly commercialized. All 4 people holding an American passport, all 4 people in their own way very privileged. No, this is not an example to the girl in Latin America or the little boy in Austria.
Okay. Thank you very much.